It's definitely a feature that, yeah, significantly increases cash flow.
There's struggles with accounts receivable, payments, cash flow. This is one of the main venues where we can bring great help.
It helps, right, make sure the business isn't losing money.
There's always a better way we can do things. And there's always, a way, room for improvement.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Wise Bytes. And today we have a pretty, I would say, a hot topic. Might actually be more of a hot topic for your clients, and that is credit card convenience fees. We're going to talk about today why you might use them, and maybe have some suggestions and how to have your clients not hate you over them. But before we get into all that, hi, Eduardo.
Hello, Rachel. Yeah, one thing that I'd like to hear from you, it's what is the first thing that comes to your mind when a particular user starts utilizing the credit card portal? What are the things that you hear from them that is kind of common among in the vast majority?
So when users start utilizing our PCI-compliant credit card integration, a lot of, right, the biggest benefit is that how quickly payments, right, that whole payment process gets, right, because it's no longer, most places we work with, right, even that are transitioning from other softwares, they process credit cards, right? I would say most businesses do, right? They have some sort of platform that processes credit cards. But the difference is being integrated with the software, right? So that you don't have to manually post those payments. In addition to, at least in the case of Wise Option, right, we even have things like a client e-billing portal where they can go click a link and then they can access and initiate a payment on their side. They don't have to be in the clinic, right, or in the office, right, to make a payment. So that obviously leads to, right, quicker payments, as well as, more satisfied clients, right? I know from
And
a
you said
client
quicker.
perspective. Yeah, quicker payments, right? Because then if you're relying, right, on someone coming in, right, or making a payment or mailing in a check, how long is that going to take? I mean, from a consumer standpoint, right? If I get a letter in the mail saying that I owe a certain amount of money, right, to, let's say a hospital or something like that, if they make me mail in a check, that's going to take me 5 to 7 business days just to put the check in the mail. But if
Yep.
they gave me a link, or better yet, sent me an e-bill that I could just click on a link, go to a secure payment portal, enter in my payment information and click pay now, that's going to get done in 1 business day. At least from my side. So our users see that too, right? The easier you can make the process, right, for the client at the end of the day, the faster they're going to make the payments, right? It's a more better experience for the client. They feel happier about it. It's easier on them. Their most, right, good clients are going to be happy to pay a bill on time if you make it easy. Where it gets caught
I
up,
think
right, is where you say, call the
we have
office to make a payment or make it mail a
yes.
check.
And I think we have pretty good stories about, customers that traditionally would not pay their bills on time. And just because it started with a portal, for some reason, I
Yeah,
don't know why.
I
I'm so curious
I do
on
have
the
I do have a
psychological
funny. I
psychological effect
Well,
behind that.
again, it's making it easy, right? Not naming names, but I had a funny story where I was helping a user bill out for the first time in the system, very first time, and we're sending statements out at the end of the month and sending a lot of statements. And as they clicked the send button, right, and we're sending out, right, hundreds of emails. Okay. And so it's going and it's, the little bars moving across the screen, counting down how many emails it's sending out. And while that's happening, I'm looking at the event logs to see, the emails sending out and seeing them sending out. But I'm also looking and seeing about, and I can see any emails, right, confirmation emails of payment that come in too. And we got about maybe a third of the way through sending, those emails. So maybe, a minute or so had passed or something like that. And I said, oh, hey, someone just made a payment. And the user said, no, that's not right. And I said, what do you mean? I see the payment receipt here. And she said, no, we haven't even finished sending out bills. And I said, yeah, but 120 have already gone out. So 120
It's so
people have
funny.
gotten, and how many people, right, have their email on their phone and even have email notifications turned on? That person probably clicked and did it. We'll come to find out later, that was a person that they had been trying to collect payment on for over a year. For
What?
over a year. Yep. And they received that first email. They clicked on that link, saw their balance, and they added their card and paid it. And again, not saying the system is gonna,
Convenience.
make right,
Customers
make
want
bad customers
convenience.
good customers, but good
Yeah,
customers that just want things to be easy,
yeah,
it win-win all the way around.
yeah. Let's talk a little bit about adopting the policy over charging the administration fee or not.
Yeah. That's a tough one because, a lot of businesses, I've seen some businesses that started out that way from the get-go, but I think it's much more common for businesses to start off not charging convenience fees, right? Because they're like, well, I don't want to put any sort of barriers between my clients paying me. They want to pay me, I'll just take it. I'll eat the processing fee. It's all well and good for the first couple of years, right? Until then the business really starts getting underway and doing really well and they have hundreds and thousands and millions of dollars in processing, and credit card processing, and then 3% of that or whatever it is a lot, right? And so the business starts feeling pressure and then decides, okay, well, we need to
It's
start
like a
charging a
partner.
convenience fee. Yeah, exactly. It says, okay, well, we need
30%
to
like a
start.
partner.
Yeah, it is. And now say, okay, we need to start charging a convenience fee. Um, and so charging that and then, right, presenting that to their customers is really tricky, right? And it depends on your clientele. Some clientele are just right more receptive to that than others, depending on your industry because they're used to it, and others, some may be less so. And so it can be really not well received. I've seen it go very, very poorly. Very poorly. And I've seen stuff also go really well, but it comes down to a multitude of factors. I don't think it's one thing or another.
Yes.
At the end of the
Yes,
day.
is not one fits all.
No, it's really not. I think, if the business does decide, right, to charge those convenience fee, transparency is paramount. You need to give clients, and you need to start before, right? If you're even talking about it and you say, okay, I think we're going to implement this. Well, give yourself 6 months or 3 months or something like that. Don't say, okay, well, starting tomorrow or in 2 weeks on the 1st, we're going to charge it. Give your clients a little bit of an opportunity, like everywhere, like whether it's signs in the office, and also so when they come in they see it, in addition to, right, maybe even when they check out, and just say, hey, by the way, like starting X day, right, 3 months in the future, we're gonna have to start charging convenience fee. The processing fee is just a really expensive for us, specifically only for
Creates the
credit cards.
expectation, so it's not a
Exactly.
surprise.
Yes, as well as maybe even like sending out like a mass notice, whether it's a letter or maybe an email blast, like in Wise Option, you can send, right, a mass email to all your clients saying,
Hmm.
hey, this is the reason why we're gonna have to do this. Um, but I think at that same time, right, in the transparency is it's also important to give them, right, another option too, right, as well. Like remind them that this is not just any payment, right? You'd be surprised, right? You have to be, I'm sure business owners probably are going to laugh when I say this, right? You have to be abundantly clear with clients, right? Because
Yeah,
they will read something that you've read 4 times and you're like, this is so clear. And they will be off in outer space before you know it. Like, so you have to be beyond a
so
reasonable doubt
true.
abundantly
That's
clear.
so
Like think about
true.
like you're a lawyer, like you got to tie up every loose end and be
Yeah.
clear on what it is and what it isn't. And so being clear in your communication as to, I think what helps too is, you can create a little bit of empathy, right, and be honest about why you're charging this. Some people may not understand that you get charged processing fees to charge credit cards, and so they just see, oh, you're charging me an additional 3% to use a card, you're just wanting more money from me, rather than understanding that, hey, we as a business get charged to run credit cards, and it's extremely expensive.
At this
And
point, I
so
think the crowd out there is way more educated about the
I would
reason
hope so,
behind. So
but I've had
there was way
conversations
more
recently that's
resistance in the beginning, but it still
100%.
happens, of course, but
Yeah,
it's way less.
it is. And again, it's specifically, it's one thing if as a business you start off with that expectation, you as a new business,
Mhm.
like from day one, that's one thing. But, having clients you've had for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and then suddenly you start charging
Yes.
convenience fees, there's a little bit of feelings around that with clients.
Hmm.
And so making sure that you, right, make sure they know other options of payment. If you take, cash, check, Zelle, Venmo, whatever your accepted methods of payment, remind them of that in that same communication. And that, hey, reminder, you can use all these other forms of payment, and we do not charge, the convenience fees only for credit card charges, or
Yes.
whatever it may be, right? So you
Yes.
can be abundantly clear with them, and they know that, hey, if I don't want to get charged this fee, I just, I'll make sure I bring a check with me, or I make sure I'll Venmo them, or whatever your other forms of payment are. But as we talked about in the beginning, right, it's a balance of yes, business decision, but we also, again, going back to that, we have to make it easy, right? And things
Well,
like
uh,
Venmo, Zelle don't make it as easy on the
yeah,
client
and on the
and on the
practice
business
either,
side too.
because
Right.
there's no automation. You have to go there and
Right.
post the payments manually.
Yes,
So
100 absolutely. So, when we looked at that, right, and this was a common thing from our perspective too, right, as on the software side of like, users were kind of feeling like stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? Of like,
mhm.
I'm losing so much money on credit card processing, but I'm afraid that when I, implement this, that then they're just going to be sending me checks or, paying me through that Zelle, and that's more work on me. And like, I don't want that. And so trying to find that fine balance. And we recently did right an integration for ACH payments, right,
That's
as
what I was
well.
about to say. Credit card is one
Yes,
of the
is
options.
one of the integrated payment options.
Yeah, ACH is
Yes.
another one. And by the way, before we dive into, the topic of ACH is way cheaper than the credit card. For sure, it's a third or less, depending on the
Yeah.
volume. Um, but without the incentive for the customer paying more on the credit card, they wouldn't go for the cheaper one. So I've noticed that some of our users who were not charging for the credit card fee, they were eating the fees. Now they're saying, okay, we're going to start charging, but pushing them towards the ACH.
Yes. Yeah, and that's a good reason for, yeah. So on average, ACH, at least through our integration, right? ACH processing fees for the business, right, is 1% or less. And so it's significantly cheaper for the business to do ACH processing than credit card processing. And you're exactly right. It's a really great trade-off to say, hey, we're not charging convenience fees because credit card processing is really expensive. However, we still do have these other payment options, and also ACH is still an integrated payment option. And many of our users elect to, yes, they still get charged, right, for a processing fee for ACH, but it's significantly less than credit card. And so they opt to
Eh,
not pass
Correct me,
that. Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, but the vast majority are even eating because 1% is way easier to
Oh,
eat,
yes.
and to
100%.
swallow
Most of
the
them are. Yeah,
than
because of that,
3%.
right? Yeah, and then again, it also incentivizes, right, the client to still use an integrated payment option. It's still easy on the client and easier on the business as well, right? It doesn't increase the workload of users and office staff and personnel, right, to manage those payments because at least in Wise Option, the ACH is an integrated option. And anyone
Okay.
who's done ACH transactions, I've had actually users that have never done it in the past because it's such a
Yes.
pain to manage
Yes.
because the one downside, let's be honest, with ACH is it's not instant like credit card is, right? Where credit card, the money clears their bank and next morning it hits your bank, right then and there. The process of ACH really is dependent on the banking institutions themselves and takes anywhere between 2 to 4 business days, right? And so
Yes.
there's a little bit more of a delay with that, right? And so there's many users that never really wanted to do that because that requires them, right, like every day to be checking their bank
Hmm.
account, right?
I
And to
can
be
see
like, did
that.
it clear, did
Yeah.
it not? And then having to go post it. That's a pain. If I was a business owner and I'd do that, I never would offer ACH for that reason.
Oh, it's a full-time
But
job for one person.
100%. And then you have to call the client and let them know and be like, yeah, you thought you paid yesterday, you didn't. That didn't work. And so with our integration with that, that was one of the big things that we solved, right? Was being able to Wise Option actually checks on a daily basis to whether or not that transaction cleared or failed. And it doesn't actually apply to
Full
the account,
integration.
yeah, until it clears. So it's
Yes.
very clear to the client when that clears, it applies it as a credit, and then it's paid towards that balance or whatever it is. And so it makes it easy again on the client and also on the user side, right? We don't want both to be happy, right? At the end of the day, and want the business to be happy, right? We have the users, we have the business, and we have the clients, and we want all three of them, right, to be happy
Yes.
with the
Uh,
solution.
and let me clarify one thing, because in the beginning I said that I personally don't like to pay credit card fees, but I said that Wise Option charge credit card fees. So let me say why. It's exactly what we talked about. We have for Wise Option, and I'm saying as a business operation, I say, okay, we have a cheaper solution here. And historically, Wise Option never charged for the administration fee.
Right.
But how can we incentivize the cheaper way if for the end customer, doesn't matter if they're going for the most expensive or the cheap. If you waive both fees, they go for the more convenient one. So it's a
Of
logical
course.
process. Well, it's a logical process. We decided to
Yeah.
say, okay, now that we have something that's way cheaper, we're gonna afford and absorb this cost, but the expensive one we're gonna pass along. That's how we did in Wise Option. And and to be honest with you, I was not creative on that one. I just copied after seeing our clients doing that.
Yeah. Yep.
So that
They were pretty smart.
that's
Yeah.
that's something that makes sense. So at the end of the day, I think what I'm trying to say is to give our users, the suggestion, uh, that maybe you should consider start charging if you don't yet start charging, and maybe waiving the fee for the ACH, because your business can then do the job since everything is automated.
Yeah.
Imagine if we, with our subscription, which is way less than our clients' invoices each month, had to manage those manually. It would be simply
Be a
a
nightmare.
nightmare. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Uh,
Yeah. We wouldn't get anything else done. There'd be
we,
no development. Nothing else would happen.
yeah,
We'd just
we
be
would be
maintaining all
another
of that.
software not giving good support.
Right. And that's I think a good way to think about it. And also for for our users out there listening to this, if you all are interested in the ACH integration, please let us know. There is a page specifically in the e-learning library about the ACH integration, how it works, how to get started with it. But feel free to reach out directly to support if you'd like some more information or need help getting
It's way
started with
cheaper,
it. Yeah,
especially for the big payments. I've noticed also that people are using for the big chunks.
it does help specifically because a lot of people, right, that make larger payments, right? Most people write checks for those, the large, I'm talking 10, 15, $20,000. Most people aren't putting that on a credit card. Most people are writing a check. And there are some right clients too that, let's be honest, like that's just what they do, right? They want to write a check every month, and that's how they want to pay. And I've
That's okay.
several of our users that started with the ACH integration were told me that that's how they got some of them off of the paper checks, was offering the ACH instead. So it's
Mhm.
still drafted from their chosen account. However, it was, a digital option that provided, right, no additional work for the user, and at the end of the day made the client happy because, again, I mean, let's be honest, who really wants to find a stamp and put a check in the mail and go from there? So I think, again, it's all about, right, making both sides happy while, again, making it make sense for the business.
In an economical
And
manner.
yeah, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, again, that's why credit card convenience fees are a thing, right? And it just comes down to the fees and what's charged on there. Um, and I
Well,
think,
certainly
yeah,
there's a fee for either a credit card and way cheaper on ACH. But at the end of the day, for Wise Option, it doesn't make a difference because your subscription is the same. Integrations, we don't charge extra for these integrations, different from other softwares out there. Besides, on top of the fees, they still charge additionally for that integration, which we
right,
don't.
right, yeah. Because for us, right, payment processing is a foundational feature, I'll say, for any business, right? I mean, that's something that if you're going to use a software like Wise Option, I mean, that's something
Oh,
that's.
but it's still you find those.
Oh,
Do
I
you
know,
know another thing
I
that I
know.
don't like? It's when you have to go to a portal, type the invoice number and your zip code. Why don't you memorize those things? Why don't you
Yes,
that
yeah.
was one of the things that I copied seeing there. Oh, especially healthcare. If you go to any ER or
Oh,
consultation
yes.
or exam, you receive the invoice, you have to go to the portal, type the URL. That's very weird. And enter your invoice number, go through this process manually
Every time.
every time.
Yeah.
For your current
Yeah.
business, this is no cool.
Yeah. And again, right, just with the right convenience fees and how they're presented to clients, the easier that the business can make things on their clients. I think that's really what it comes down to, right? Still providing
Yeah,
easy payment options and transparency,
yeah.
right? Nobody wants to be surprised with this. And having tools like, in this case, Wise Option, I'll put on my little
Yeah,
hat for a second, right? That offers easy integrated solutions, right? That can help that, but on both sides, right? Help the
I'm
client
not.
have the warm, fuzzy feeling in the business, knowing that they can sleep good at night.
I don't know if you notice this when you are out there doing your visits, Rachel, but one thing that I hear a lot is people saying, "Oh, but our clients, they don't like credit card. They like to say checks, and they will
Mhm.
never adopt that." There was a time I would see that happen, not anymore. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
the percentage is way low. Uh,
Yeah.
but here's the beauty. It's that you can set it up in the system on a per customer basis.
Yeah.
If the customer wants paper statement, send paper statement, receive paper, envelopes with
Yeah.
payments and for that particular customer. But seize the opportunity of those who are willing to pay you faster
Yeah.
and
You know,
cheaper.
another thing I saw, again, I can't take credit for this because users are very clever for this. I've seen this happen multiple times. Where implementing credit card fees, right, is a new thing for the business, hasn't charged it previously. Again, trying to put it in a good light. And also, like the title of this implies, right, how to make your clients not hate you for it. Um, is I've
Yes,
seen some, right, that again, and this comes a little bit, and maybe other software does this too, but Wise Option specifically, like Eduardo was saying, right, you can actually control the convenience fees charged on a per account basis. You can do a blanket for all accounts, right? But on per each account, you can actually go in and say, hey, I want to turn this one off for this one, or I want to make this one less specifically. And I've seen sometimes, right, that businesses will come up with different incentives for their clients, right? And that's kind of a
I
win-win,
remember that.
right? But it makes the client feel like they're saving money, which I mean they are very much saving money. One incentive in particular that I saw that I really loved was that this business wanted, they actually already offered their clients auto pay. Wise Option also has a feature to kind of help manage that too. But without getting too much details on that, this business wanted to increase the number of people on auto pay, right? Because if you can, right, have clients sign some auto pay agreement that they agree to pay the balance on their account at the end of each month,
Yes, I
maybe five
remember
days
that.
after you send out statements, or something like that, right? And you go and you charge all cards with that balance. Uh, right, business gets their money way faster. Clients are happy because they don't have to remember going and pay their bill, right? But they still get a copy of the invoices. And obviously, if they find anything that they want to dispute, they can contact you. But I digress. So they kind of combined the two. And so they said, all right, clients, uh, here's the thing. If you sign up for auto pay, we will waive all convenience fees for your account.
Now, for those, I believe, of course, those who are not Wise Option users, they would like to know what the auto pay is. And I wouldn't be surprised to see some current users of Wise Option who doesn't know about that feature either. Can
Yeah.
you,
So when
in a
we say,
nutshell, let them know what you mean about auto pay?
so I'll be specific because it may vary, right, between software. So if you're using another software, please take this with a grain of salt. And if your software does have something like this, make sure you clarify exactly how it works, because it may be
Yeah, we're
different.
gonna say how we are.
Because the way that we deal with auto pay and Wise Option is it is a account flag. Wise Option will never charge a customer's payment method on file, ACH bank account or credit card or debit card. Will never just automatically charge it without the user initiating the process. However, we have built a tool which is called automated charges. Although we also say auto pay because that's how most of our users are kind of used to hearing that term, instead of automated charges. And basically, it's a flag. You can decide on a per client account which ones have signed your auto pay agreement. And there's a form in Wise Option that actually shows all the clients that have that flag on that also have an account balance. And so whatever your chosen auto pay day is, maybe it's the 5th of the month, the 10th of the month, whatever, you can go in and actually, just instead of having to go into each individual, right? I've had some practices that literally have a book of clients that are on auto pay, and they go through manually every month, and they go to each customer account and they charge their card or their bank account or whatever every month. They go through a whole book to check the auto pays on the 5th of every month. And in Wise Option, we automate that process through this form, which allows you to select all, and click charge, and it charges all the client accounts that you have selected, their default payment on file, and sends them a payment receipt. And so
And
that
post.
process, and post the credit to the account. Yes, absolutely. So that process in and of itself, right, helps obviously expedite payments, and so greatly. And so it was a way, right, for, I loved this promotion idea because, right, it's a way for the business to still get paid quickly. And yes, they, right, then for those accounts, right, then they eat those convenience fees, or those, the processing fees that they get charged. However, they know every single month they can charge those customers cards, and they know, right, there's no waiting 2-3 weeks after they send a statement and maybe a phone call or two to the client. You get paid quicker, right? You get
I
paid
truly believe
timely and
that's
on time.
being one of the items that have made our users feel the real cash flow improvement, because it's one button, a chunk of money on the billing day. You receive the money on the first week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Crazy.
And it is important to note, definitely you may need to consult, right, your own business's legal counsel, and that most people have auto pay agreements, right, that clients sign, right, agree to, right, and
Yes.
everyone's terms are a little different. So just make sure obviously you do your due diligence in that section, but it's definitely a feature that, yeah, significantly increases cash flow. And when combined, right, again, this is just this like, genius of combining features to, again, portray yourself, really well to your clients and give them that warm, fuzzy feeling at the end of the day, right?
Hmm.
That's just, I thought it was just a really genius thing to do. Again, it gets the
Yep.
client, the business paid on time. Clients get what they want because they don't want to pay convenience fees. And
Hmm.
the business has reoccurring income, guaranteed income every single month.
I wish we could say that we created that, but it's
I
just one
know.
more thing that the
Yeah.
users put in
I
there for
know
us.
everyone, it's genius. Yeah,
It's genius.
absolutely.
It
It
was
really,
genius.
absolutely. So I think that's a good hallmark there on I think
Yep.
that was my little cherry on top story on that one. But yeah, at the end of the day, convenience fees, it's a tough, I'll say it's a tough subject for a business, especially with the clients. But I think some of the
Yeah.
top things we talked about here today, being transparent, giving plenty of time right before, implementing there, making sure clients also know that other payment methods are available, and bonus points if you have a system like Wise Option, right, that has multiple integrated payment solutions. Then as the business, right, you don't have to increase the work of your users there just by, right, trying to offer your clients other cheaper methods of payment.
I will not explore much of the additional topic, but just to give you an idea, to those of you who are watching this, we are now noticing that our clients' customers are going more and more to the portal, because basically it looks like a banking online where they see the statements real time. If there's some, you know, discrepancies or things that need to be changed or adjusted, they can do right on the spot. Push the refresh button, you save time. But on top of that, they can update telephone numbers, email addresses, add new credit card numbers. Our system also has the ability for when your customer receives a new card, not for fraud, but when it's just the expiration date and receive a non-new card, the system will automatically post the new data into the card. So you don't have, it does all of that automatically. And it's just us choosing good partners for you. And additionally, we created in Wise Option, since they are going to this place, the portal, where they see the statement, they see the e-billing, they see all the invoices, they see their own information, they can update the records and data. We are giving them extra things that we could do so they can see, if that's the case, the frozen semen inventory, the vitrified embryos inventory, the inventory of horses. They can see shipping requests, shipping data, breeding records, flush records in the same portal and on a per customer basis. But this is a different story. I think we should continue with the series where a software makes a difference for your practice. I foresee us talking about the new tool that we just created that's being fantastic, the new scheduler in Wise Option 7. I would love for us to talk a little bit about the thoughts and ideas we have for inventory, which is a very polemic item as well, talking about inventory. Anything else you think that is coming? Invoice Expresso, I think it deserves a session only for that, for us to let the community know what the Invoice Expresso is, because it's there, and it surprises me how some people have not even touched it yet.
Yeah, that I'm pretty passionate about that one. That one in particular, I think it gets I don't know where the assumption comes from, but it gets an assumption that it's only used in certain cases rather than a really a way to expedite daily, at time of service billing for all situations really. So I'll talk about that one till I'm blue in the face.
Okay.
That's a pretty good one.
Well, there's more to come. Today, I think it's all about money first, right? Because
I mean,
if we
without
don't make
that,
our
we can't do
clients,
any of
our
the good
users to
things.
receive money, they cannot pay subscriptions. The
Well,
faster
yes,
we
and
make you receive money, the better it is.
let's be honest, right? And as much as right, business does not all come down to it. At the end of the day, we have to make sure that the cash flow is good, right? Because then users
Yeah,
cannot do any of the wonderful things that and services they can offer to their clients.
yeah. I will not make promises right now, but as soon as we are in advanced stages with Wise Option 7, I have in my to-do list to revisit and reconsider Venmo and Zelle transfers. So, we have more options. It's all about collecting, not only
Yeah,
producing good services, but also collecting efficiently.
absolutely. For sure. Well, I appreciate your time here, Eduardo, and hope this has been helpful. If anyone has any questions, of course, you're more than welcome to reach out, users or non-users alike. But we hope this has been helpful, and looking forward to talking to you all very soon.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.